Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cut to the Chase Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chase Johnson. We got a special guest in here today. She goes to the University of Wisconsin, does a lot of sports casting, sports report, just basically the whole 9 yards of things. Krissy Birdsall. Krissy, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Chase, for having me. I'm super excited to get this going.
Of course, of course. If you guys are watching this video, I know we're only like 25 seconds into it. Give it a like, subscribe, do whatever you can with that. But let's jump right into things. Just tell us a little about yourself, your background, where are you from, just everything about yourself.
Yeah, of course. So I'm currently in my third year at UW-Madison. I'm originally from New Jersey, so came from the East Coast to the Midwest to study journalism. I also do some Spanish and sports communication there as well. And then in terms of what I do outside of the classroom, I'm really involved in the student radio station, WSUM. I have a few weekly talk shows there. I also have some sports broadcasting experience across like all different types of sports. And that's really opened a lot of doors for me to try out some other things. So as of last year, I started working at Big Ten Network's Big Ten Plus, which is TV broadcasting for their streaming platform. So there I mostly do soccer and basketball, but I've dabbled a little bit in softball and maybe some other sports coming up. We'll have to see to be announced. And then I also did some writing for a little bit for the Badger Herald. I still continue there. Not in the beat writing role that I was with the women's basketball team, but just writing some articles and stuff whenever I can. And yeah, it's been a great experience my last 3 years. I've met a lot of student journalists like yourself from all around the country, and it's really cool. There's some certain clubs and things that you can get involved with. The student media poll, for one being example, not something associated through UW-Madison, but just a way to connect with other journalists and do something that we all have in common, which is the love of sports. And we all vote on the top 25 each week. It's a really cool program that they have going out there. And yeah, I've been pretty busy these last few years. So I just wrapped up my finals yesterday and looking forward to Christmas break and giving myself, a few days off.
Exactly. That's awesome to hear, though. I mean, obviously, both of us wanted to get into sports media, sports broadcast, and all that stuff. Do we really work a day in our lives once we get to that point? No.
Absolutely not.
No. I mean,
Absolutely.
the preparation part of it, it can be a lot, but it's fun, though. I mean, obviously, we're talking, we're writing game notes, we're talking to players and stuff. It's obviously, it's very fun to do. So, obviously, not working a day in your life, but, what exactly got you into this though? What was there just something that hit maybe a couple years back? Was it when you got to campus? Has it just been the thing for a long time? Like what really, hooked you about getting into the sports broadcasting and sports media field?
So it's interesting because I feel like it's, either you choose the school and then you choose your major, or you choose your major, then your school. For me, because I was looking at schools during COVID, I kind of needed a way to narrow down my choices. I had like 25 schools on my list. And my mom's like, all right, you need to narrow these down. Like, I got a way you can narrow these down east of the Mississippi. So there was that the geographical barrier for me. And then there was also, trying to narrow it down. And I decided trying to figure out what my major was going to be. And looking at all the options, I was like, all right, well, I really like sports. My dad and I grew up watching basically everything, spending our entire Sundays on the couch, watching NFL games, watching MLB games, going to NHL games. And I was like, I really like sports. And we have these crazy conversations about them. As I've gotten older, I've started to learn more about the players and routes and schemes. So we just have like these long conversations about them. So I'm like, I really enjoy that. And I like writing a little bit. So what about sports communication, sports journalism? And it kind of just worked out. From there, I started narrowing down my schools and I applied to a bunch of Big Ten schools, including Wisconsin, took a tour out there and decided, all right, that's where I'm going. And it worked out surprisingly well for me. Despite really like not being 100% when I came in here, getting involved early with the things that I've been able to do at the radio station, at the student newspaper, at Big Ten Plus, and even just some of the other things that I've been able to do, it really solidified that this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. And it's given me other goals now in mind of like, oh, I could do this in the sports world, or I could do the production side, or I can do writing. Like, it's so interesting to see like that I had this one idea that I like sports and I like writing. And now it's become so much more than that there's so many different options in the industry.
That's awesome to hear. I mean, like I said, I mean, there's There really are so many different opportunities, and there's not just one straight path that you have to walk or run on to get to a destination that you want to go to, like mentioning the production side of things. So this was, a little about myself. This is my first semester at the University of Cincinnati. I actually played college basketball for 2 years, came over here to the University of Cincinnati. So I'm also learning that production side of things, and I've done some sports broadcasting in the past, in starting it back up now. But just that whole thing of where it's like there's so many different options, and the navigation is not just one straight shot. And it's just awesome to see the amount of different things that you can get under your tool belt to become a better play-by-play broadcaster, become a better radio host, to become, better in the technical side of things, a production role. It is really cool to see. And again, it's all for the love of sports and, the players and everything else that we love to cover. But, that's just awesome to hear, from your side of things over there at Wisconsin. And, before I normally have guests on the show, it's not like, it's just like I'm a big like name or anything like that. But like I normally would go back and look and see like a little research and look and see like what the guest I'm having on my show, what they're doing and stuff. And obviously you've called over like 30 games this year, 20 or 30 games you've called like in play by play and color commentary role.
Yeah, so I think my total amount of broadcasts were 32, and that was with production and with being on air, being on behind the camera, behind the mic. I think in front of the mic, I think it was about like 25, but
Wow.
still like just a lot of different opportunities, a lot of different sports I got to cover, a lot of different roles that I got to try. I really like doing the color analysis role, but I've done play-by-play now. I've done pre-half post. And, I've had the opportunity to travel. This year we went to the NIT for Las Vegas when Wisconsin played North Texas in the semifinal round. And I had the opportunity to go out there. And that was a really cool experience for me and the other broadcaster who got to go. And we had a really great time. It's Las Vegas. Even though I wasn't 21, got to walk around the city, do some zip lining, and just explore the city as it is. But to have those opportunities, being only a sophomore at the time and going now into my junior year, it's really crazy to see like just how much I've grown from the first time I stepped on campus to now.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just even like it's not even just like, years before. It's even like looking at how people have grown from semesters even, like a one semester can be the difference though. But again, being, on the mic for 25 games and in that, even the production role, adding that, 30 plus games over an entire course of a year. I mean, that's pretty awesome stuff. And that's what a lot of people that want to get into that role, that's the opportunity that they want to have. And it's, it's awesome to see that you're doing your thing there. Before we talk about something, my voice is starting to go. Before we talk about, some NFL, NBA stuff, talking about some specific teams, I gotta ask this real quick. So a couple of my friends who are on this podcast, they're also hosts on here. They went up to the Ohio State Wisconsin game this year. I think it was Big Ten Saturday night on NBC. Yep. I believe. Did you meet Noah Eagle at all? Did you get a chance?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. He's a good friend of the show actually. So so that was I thought I saw that connection. I was like, all right, that's cool. That's pretty cool. And so they go up to the game. All right. And I think they were up there around the day before the game. And, I remember my friend Matt, he went over and got some cheese curds. He's like, "These are the best damn cheese curds I've ever had." Like, is that legit? Like, is that legit? Like, they have the best cheese curds in the world up there. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. And when I came from the East Coast, I didn't know what a cheese curd was. And that was like the first thing I tried there because they were like, you have to try the cheese curds. Cheese curds and Culver's. That was the two big things.
Hey, all right. Culver's. I just went to Culver's on Saturday after the game. Me and my friend after the Bengals game. Oh, man, it's a godsend. Culver's is so freaking good.
My roommates and I just went for like our end of semester treat. And I'm like, this is the one thing I'm going to miss if I'm like not in the Midwest anymore. If I go back to the East Coast, because we don't have them where I'm from. The closest one is either in like, I don't even know. I think it might be like Ohio. And then it's like all the way down south in like North or South Carolina. So I'm in like a Culver's desert, basically.
Hey, you're not too far from it though. But yeah, I mean, I've been petitioning around our town, man. I want Culver's here. I need a Culver's in the town so I can go there every week. Not every day, I'd be fat, but every single day though. I mean, it's just I don't even know. I always say I always want Culver's to sponsor me, sponsor the show, whatever. Just maybe it'll happen. We'll see what happens with that. But still though, I mean, it's just funny. I never thought I'd have a conversation about Culver's on the podcast, but I absolutely love it. Absolutely great way to start the Monday morning. But yeah, I just wanted to see those cheese curds though. I mean, they were like my friends were telling me about it. They're like the cheese curds are this and that, and I'm like, I got to make my way up to Wisconsin because they talk about the cheese heads at Green Bay, the cheese curds in Wisconsin. I mean, it's just it's awesome stuff, to hear. But yeah, off that note, the Dallas Cowboys played yesterday. Wasn't necessarily, a great performance. And for those listening, you are a Cowboys fan, correct?
Yeah, my dad grew up a Cowboys fan, so I kind of got, roped into the family business,
Yeah.
you could say. Even though I'm from New Jersey and, the Jets have Aaron Rodgers and the Giants have the Italian stallion, Tony Vito. Like, I'm still a Cowboys fan. Got to stick with my fan base.
100%. But yeah, I mean, Dallas though, it's been a good year for Dallas to say the least. It's been a very good year. Just not necessarily, a great day yesterday against the Buffalo Bills. Again, we were talking before the show. Buffalo just decided to finally use the run game, and they decided, hey, James Cook is here, so why not use him? And went for over 200 total yards yesterday and had himself a game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing with the Dallas defense too is you would think the passing game would be the more weak spot of there just because of the injuries that they've had at the cornerback position. But I was surprised at how the run game just seemed to work really well for the Buffalo Bills. And there may be like a few teams that have challenged Dallas really on that run specifically. And the Bills did that yesterday and they absolutely dominated there. Now for not Wisconsin, we're talking Dallas here. For Dallas's offense, it seems like it kind of hit the brakes a little bit. They've been high flying, especially with some of those teams that have been under 500 this year. And they just kind of struggled against this Buffalo defense there. I mean, I don't know if it was the cold or whatnot, but yeah, it was a little bit of a rough performance for Dallas, but still having a good season nonetheless.
Yeah, nonetheless at all. I mean, at least they get to get out of those elements this next week against the Miami Dolphins, who they should have Tyreek Hill. We'll see what happens with that. It's going to be an awesome game on Christmas Eve, 4:00 on Fox. But, just looking at the NFC playoff picture, you got, the Niners at the 1 seed right now. The Eagles overtake the Cowboys because the Eagles haven't played yet. They play on Monday night tonight against the Seattle Seahawks. That's a huge Monday night football game, to say the least. Detroit's the 3 seed. Tampa's the 4. Tampa had a really impressive win against the Green Bay Packers yesterday. Baker Mayfield, that was really surprising from him. He's had a great season. And then the Cowboys at the 5. The Vikings lost to my Bengals. Thank the Lord. They are the 6 seed right now. And then the Rams and the Saints and a couple of those teams are just fighting for that 7 seed right now. It's a back alley brawl over there in the NFC. But if you're looking at just one of those teams that have, not necessarily gotten hot, but like who is a team that could actually, really surprise some people in the NFC coming into the playoffs? If you had any team, and it's really tough though, because this year's been a very weird year in the NFL. But if there's just one team that's like, maybe they could make a run, who would it be?
Yeah, it's hard in the NFC, especially because it's kind of really like a 2-horse race. And I'll try and take Dallas out of it for a second because San Fran and Philadelphia have had phenomenal seasons. And I would say that 95% of people are going to expect them to face each other in the NFC Championship. I think Dallas can make a run if they're able to get lucky at the right time. I mean, having a home breath would be really important for them, but they need Philadelphia to lose. And that doesn't seem like that's going to happen considering the rest of their schedule. And Dallas would have to win out. And considering that they play Miami next week and a couple of tough teams down the road, I could see them being kind of that top wild card spot. It'll be interesting, though, to see. I think the NFC North has gotten a lot more interesting. Everyone thought that Detroit was going to have a good year, and they are doing a lot better than what people expected. But Minnesota, even Green Bay could sneak themselves in there if they get hot at the right time. So they could be a little bit interesting, but it's really, I think, going to be a little bit chalky going into the NFC Championship, and then whoever comes out of there is going to be on top.
Yeah, a lot of people from Wisconsin will be happy about that. They're not too excited right now, but yeah, actually, let me ask about this though, about the Packers. with you going to Wisconsin and being around probably a good amount of Packers fans, Jordan Love. Just I asked a couple people about this. Jordan Love has been like I just he's a good quarterback, but like I can't put my finger around where I would rank him as a quarterback. Is it just too early? Like he's been in such a unique situation where he was, the backup quarterback for 3 years. He finally gets his chance. They start off, pretty bad. Now they're, all right. Now they kind of slip. Like I'm just having trouble pinpointing what Jordan Love is as a quarterback. Have you gotten a chance to watch Love or hear about what Packers fans think about Jordan Love? Like what have you heard about him?
Yeah, being in Wisconsin, I would say, basically everybody from the state is a Packers fan in some capacity. And even some of my friends, across the way in Minnesota and even Illinois, you're dealing with the Bears and the Vikings over there. But, a lot of them still follow the Packers and what they are. And I feel like most people still don't really know what Jordan Love is, because the thing about this team is, with Matt LaFleur's team, is they're all young. Every single person, there's not really any major experienced players on that team, especially at any of the skill positions. So I know this is what they were trying to do coming in, win as a team, lose as a team, everyone builds together. But it is hard to, pinpoint player evaluations, because it's like, okay, well, he had a good game, but you have a rookie receiver that just dropped the ball a few times, or the rookie receiver is having a great game and Jordan Love maybe just wasn't getting to him. Like there's so many different things that can go into it, so many different factors, that it's interesting. And I think a lot of people think that Jordan Love has the capacity to be really good, especially after the Chiefs game a few weeks ago. They took them down and everyone was like, all right, Jordan Love is legit, he's going to be the one. And then Baker Mayfield puts up perfect passer rating in the fourth quarter against them, and you're like, all right, what is going on with this team? I think for Packers fans right now, their biggest concern is the defense and Joe Barry. But the offense, I feel like most people feel that they've exceeded the expectations that they had coming into the year.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, and Jordan Love, like, I mean, I think this Packers offense hasn't really been that bad this year. It just sucks that, guys like Aaron Jones have been inconsistently out. The only reason I know that, my fantasy team. Thanks for that. But, he's been out a little bit. He's, would have been a really intricate part of this offense if he were to stay mostly healthy this season for the duration of the season. And then, A.J. Dillon had to step in a little bit more than usual. Jaden Reed, the rookie receiver from Michigan State, has been a really good addition this year for the Green Bay Packers. Christian Watson's been hurt here and there. Romeo Dobbs, a jump ball receiver. So it's not like, the Packers did get, from like the oldest roster to one of the youngest rosters overnight, but again, this is kind of what I expected from them when it came to their record, but just watching them, I'm like, this might be one of the biggest question marks in the National Football League at the moment. We got to keep in mind that, they're a pretty young football team. So, just had to get that insight on there. When it comes to the AFC, all right, we're looking at the Baltimore Ravens became the first team to clinch a playoff spot in the AFC, and it was week 15. It's been a pretty tight race over there in the American Football Conference. Then below them, the Miami Dolphins, who the Cowboys play next week. The Chiefs are 3 at 9-5. The Jags still hold the 4 seed at 8-6, but they're in a 3-way race right now between the Colts and the Texans as well. So that's going to get really spicy down the stretch. The 5 seed, the Browns, who I don't like at all. I'll say that. The 6 seed, the Bengals. I mean, if you would have told me a month ago the Bengals would be holding the 6th seed in the playoffs, I'm not going to say what I would say, but we're going to hold that off. The Colts, the 7. The Texans right outside looking in at the 8. The Bills, the 9. All those teams are 8-6 in that melting pot right there. And the Steelers and Broncos are definitely not out of it at the moment. Out of those wild card teams, we're talking, 5 through 11 or whatever. What team really intrigues you the most? Which team could get hot and can make a run? Maybe it's the team you saw yesterday.
Yeah, I would absolutely say that. I mean, the AFC is so much fun to watch just because of how chaotic it is right now. And it's going to make for a really fun last couple of weeks of football, where I feel like most of the time at this time of the year, everyone kind of knows where their position is and they start preparing themselves. But I mean, this could be like week 17. All these teams are dogfighting to get into the playoffs. So you're going to see like full rosters coming out in that last week. It's going to be really fun to see. I'm excited for it. But I think Buffalo, if they do make the playoffs, will go far. I think that they've had their struggles, but they're stacking the pieces together at the right moment right now. And if they're able to keep that consistency heading into the playoffs, that they'll have a chance to go. Have a chance to do a really good job. The only concern with them is that they'll probably be a wild card team, so they'll have to play on the road. So it'll be interesting to see how they navigate that. But I think they'll have a really good shot of making it far and taking down a couple of these top teams. I think they could give any other team in this conference a run right now, including Miami, Baltimore, the Chiefs. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that all dynamic plays out.
And it's crazy when you're looking at the Bills' final, couple games in the schedule. They play a Chargers team without Justin Herbert on Saturday night. Then they play a Patriots team who's, been an absolute rut. They did beat the Bills earlier this season in Foxborough, but Buffalo playing hot right now. It doesn't look good for the Patriots in that regard. So they win those two games, and the Dolphins playing the Cowboys and the Ravens in Baltimore after that. The Cowboys, that's the Cowboys. Sorry, keep a lot of stuff about the Cowboys right now. But if the Dolphins go on ahead and go 1-1 in those next two games, and the Bills win their next two games like they're supposed to, Week 18 is a Bills-Dolphins matchup that could, will decide the AFC East. I mean, you're looking at how the Bills' middle of the season went, and it just wasn't good. And then just to look at the rebound that they were able to have after finding their offensive coordinator, after losing a couple of primetime games and losing some tough ones, especially against the Eagles before the bye week. And if they could go in to Miami and have a chance to play for the division title and try to win the division for the fourth straight year in a row, I mean, what more could you ask for from Buffalo? But a point that you mentioned, Buffalo is kind of like Dallas in that way, where they're a different team on the road than what they are at home. And you could look at it from the perspective of if they have to go on the road, and who knows? I mean, this could get real shaky. But again, if you're looking at a home team quarterback, like maybe if Jacksonville plays against Buffalo, or if the Chiefs play Buffalo again, and you have to welcome in Josh Allen and that scorching hot Bills team, I mean, there's two sides of the coin, but I mean, if I had to choose, I wouldn't want to see them. So, that's going to be a big thing going forward. But yeah, I mean, it's just there's 5 or 6 teams. There's only really 2 or 3 playoff spots in that wild card round. I know the Browns have kind of solidified themselves toward the 5 seed. We'll see what happens. They got a good game against the Texans coming up on Christmas Eve, but it's just there's so many teams, not enough spots. What more could you ask for when it comes to the dramatics of the National Football League? So very excited to see that. Moving to the hardwood, though, you're a Magic fan, right?
I am a Magic fan, a newly Magic fan who has a sad Mo Bamba jersey and Bol Bol jersey hanging up of 2 players that got traded to other teams. But that's okay, because I'm not going to get any more jerseys. I'm not going to curse this team any more than they've already been cursed.
I'm very glad you're able to address the room and see what's going on. Like, hey, I'm not gonna put myself in this situation and all that. But yeah, and I think we've already talked about this. Haven't really watched a ton of NBA. I know the NBA, the in-season tournament. I watched a little bit here and there. I mean, I thought it was pretty good overall. I like the concept where they had the teams go out to Vegas in the Final Four, and I will say some of those courts though. Some of the courts were cool, but a lot of them I wasn't a big fan of. I gotta put that out there.
Oh yeah, no, some of those courts you were like, how did they even get these colorways to go? It was a little rough to watch, and I couldn't imagine calling that too, like a bright red court. I think my eyes would just burn out of their sockets. Like
seriously, I would literally call in that game. I'd turn one way, and then my eyes would probably just be focused on that red part. Just God, this is not fun. But yeah, I think the concept of the in-season tournament was cool. Just there's some stuff that maybe they can look forward into next year and be like, maybe we won't do a bright red court and everything. Maybe we won't do this or that. But yeah, so newer Magic fan. Paolo Banchero, they got the Wagner brothers are doing their thing over there. What are your thoughts on just like the Magic though in general? Obviously, it's a young part of the season, and like we mentioned, I haven't really watched a ton of games, but what are your thoughts on them as a whole?
I think one of my favorite things about the Magic, and now being a Magic fan, I think it's like so much more apparent to me. Maybe this is like confirmation bias. They are so much fun to watch. They just like every time they go out, they're playing their hardest, and they're taken down some of these really good teams. I mean, they went on an 11-game winning stretch, and they were taking down really good teams like Milwaukee. I think they took down, I don't know if they took down Boston, but I think Boston was included in there. The Nets, who are having a pretty decent stretch of the season so far. And they were just rolling off these wins and doing a really great job of just managing the team and the roster. And you talked about it, Paulo Banchero has been playing phenomenal for the team so far. Franz Wagner has been doing a really great job. They have a lot of young pieces on this team. So you have guys like Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, who are stepping up as well in those roles whenever they need. It's a lot of fun to watch. And I'm so glad I chose the Magic as my team because now all of a sudden I choose this team and they're really good. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I have some luck there. I'm not going to say it's completely me, but they are a lot of fun to watch. But you mentioned it. The season is still very young. And, they're hanging right now towards that top, towards the top of the East. But I think, once Miami starts rolling off a little bit, that they'll get overtaken by them. And they'll probably end up somewhere in the middle of the division. But they've had a really good season up until this point. So there's not much more you can ask for as long as they can maintain that consistency.
Hey, if they maintain a consistency, maybe you do have the magic touch when it comes to picking these teams. So, I mean, that might be the case. I'm not too sure. But, and then another surprise team I've been looking at, and this is another young team as well, the Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, when you're looking at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I don't know what it is about him, but he scores a quiet 32 a night. It's unbelievable to watch him play. He smoothed it with the 15-footer, occasionally hit the three here and there, get to the basket, dish it off. I mean, he's a spectacular player, one of the most underrated, basketball players in the National Basketball Association. And then, Chet Holmgren. You got two Jalen Williams on that squad. You got Dort. There's and Josh Giddey. I know there's a lot of stuff with Josh Giddey right now, but there's just, they have a great roster, great young roster that can make a really good push. And they're one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the Western Conference at the moment. Excited to see them. But, Chet Holmgren, Victor Wembanyama, 2 very, very tall guys that have, guard skills and everything. But, actually I'll ask about Victor Wembanyama. I know the Spurs suck. They're not good right now. But have you got a chance to watch him play in a game at least this year, like on TV?
I've watched him maybe one time, and he impressed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember I watched a preseason game. I think they were playing the Miami Heat, and just seeing him actually on the court in an NBA game to start, I was just like, yeah, this is ridiculous. This is almost like, this dude's an alien out here. I mean, 7'5", can shoot the three, get to the basket, dish it off. And, it's a cheat code, but obviously the Spurs don't have a whole lot around them right now. But, and then I think the Timberwolves have been pretty good this year. Anthony Edwards, I mean, dude's a dog. I mean, people are talking about, he's second coming to Michael Jordan. I mean, I've heard some wild people talk about that, but I'm like, I don't know about that. But Anthony Edwards, he's really been balling this year. I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they've been having a really good season. And I only know that just because one of my co-hosts on one of our weekly shows is a Timberwolves fan. He's from the Minnesota area. And he says that he's like, they're going to the playoffs. They're going to win everything. And I'm like, it's December.
Yeah.
So we're not for a few more months. But you know what? Keep working at it. But they've had a really good start to the season, and Oklahoma City as well with that youth. I mean, they've drafted so well, Oklahoma City, that you knew that they were going to eventually get to this point, and they kind of started building that momentum last year, and then, brought a few of their pieces back, and now they're really rolling. The only thing is, when you have a team as young as them, same thing with the Magic, that you're going to have rookie mistakes. You're going to have those ups and downs, trials and tribulations. So it's going to be interesting to see how those young teams manage. Looking back at the NFL, we look at the Packers and the Texans, both 2 really young teams, and how they've been managing their seasons. Kind of the same thing on, the hardwood. Just how are these young teams going to stick with it with some of these more seasoned vets? The NBA has so many teams that are just so much older on the roster. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch as the season unfolds.
100%. Yeah. And like you mentioned, you're talking about the hardwood and, on the gridiron. I mean, it's very rare for a young team to just, be very good and just able to just, push through, get on a nice playoff push and everything like that. It's very rare for that to happen because there are those trials and tribulations. There are those hard knocks that come with it. And, you normally see some of those younger guys just like, I haven't been here before. We haven't been here before as a team. And, normally, they come back the next year and they have some more experience and everything. But, it's going to be interesting to see because, obviously both the Western Conference, Eastern Conference are filled with some great, great players. And, guys like Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum, the Celtics are really good, just, in the Eastern Conference. And I mean, when you have LeBron James and Kevin Durant in the Western Conference, I mean, it's going to be tough, but, it's gonna be fun to watch later on. I mean, we're talking, we're talking. This is gonna be March, April, May, but when football's still going on, I'm not watching the NBA. Is all I gotta say. But I think that's something to live by there. But to go to the baseball diamond, MLB free agency, Juan Soto is a Yankee. What'd you think?
I was pretty excited about that pickup. I mean, I know everybody was, dogfighting for another player that we'll talk about in a few moments, but Juan Soto, definitely one of the other top players that was on the free agency list. And I'm glad that the Yankees got him. They got a really good player, didn't have to spend an arm and a leg to get him. And he's going to be really good. I mean, between him and Aaron Judge, the two sluggers there, like Juan Soto's going to hit like 1 million home runs next year at Yankee Stadium. Like, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch with that short wall and what he's going to be able to do. And when you have two really hard hitters like Judge and Soto, I mean, that team offensively they're going to be tough.
100%. Yeah. But you've been to Yankee Stadium quite a bit of times and everything. That's one of the places that I've always wanted to check off my box. Be like, I got to go to a game at Yankee Stadium. I got to see what the whole atmosphere is like down there in the Bronx and everything. But, besides like, the actual team and everything, but like, what's a couple of your favorite things about the stadium as a whole? Like, just like the atmosphere and stuff.
I think for me, coming from New Jersey, the way that we go up, we don't drive to the stadium and park and do some tailgating. Like, you take a train or you take some other kind of public transport to get into the Bronx. And it's so fun because you're just on the subway with, hundreds of other Yankees fans and everyone's getting off and it's always so busy and crowded and walking around. And then the stadium itself is beautiful. I mean, like, historically it has a lot of charm to it, but just the field itself is really well taken care of. And it's so much fun to go in there. And I've sat in so many different spots. I've sat in spots that were really close to the turf. And then I've also sat like way up high. And no matter where you sit, you get a really good view. And if you're sitting out in the bleachers, you're going to have a really good time. So I think that you can't get a bad view or a bad time at Yankee Stadium, which is like the one thing that I feel like is really appealing to Yankees fans.
It's awesome to hear. I mean, I would just love to come out there and, just, walking in the street, like, hey, I'm walking here. That's going to be the moment where I get that New York. Hey, I'm actually in New York. This is pretty dope. But yeah, that is awesome to hear. But the other person that everybody in the MLB was trying to get, if Cincinnati would have got him, the city probably would have went bankrupt and, I wouldn't have a place to live. But Shohei Ohtani to the Dodgers for 700. I can't even keep a straight face when I say the amount of money. $700 million. Like, what is Disney? Come on, this is insane. Shohei to the Dodgers. What the amount of money? Just what are the thoughts on that?
I mean, it's insane. I mean, everyone knew that he was going to be asking for something really high, maybe in like the 650, but 700 is just a ridiculous number. I mean, that's money that you've never heard of before, until Shohei got signed. And I mean, credit to the Dodgers, they got the bank to spend it, and they're basically kind of doing the craziest thing you ever heard, paying them like $2 million a year and then paying them the rest right at the end, which is smart. I'm surprised that it's legal, but
seriously though, jeez,
that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, it is.
But I know a lot of people were not very happy that he went to the Dodgers. I wasn't too surprised personally. I mean, I know Toronto was in the mix, so kind of glad that he didn't go there, just for the Yankees' sake. But for the Dodgers, I mean, I think that it was expected. I mean, they had the pocket that they could spend on him, and it's not too far from the Angels Stadium, which is literally down the road. So it kind of made sense for me, but I mean, I'm not super happy. I would have rather him stay on the Angels, but obviously nobody knew that, nobody thought that was going to happen.
Yeah. 100%. So yeah, I mean, it's it's just that part of it's crazy when talking about $2 million for the next 10 years, and I mean, I just keep thinking about that. They're gonna bring the Brinks truck over there. They're gonna drop off the 680 and just say, "Hey, you got like 10 trucks worth of $680 million." Is it gonna? And it's not gonna be direct deposit. Direct deposit. I mean, hey, they're gonna be getting like an FBI call, be like, "Hey, man, are you you doing some illegal activity over here? This is not right." But yeah, I mean, looking at him as a player, great hitter, great pitcher. He's not going to be able to really pitch this year, but I mean, still to have him as a luxury of being a hitter for $2 million. I mean, it's the Dodgers got pretty much a steal for these next 10 years until they have to pay off that money. But it is crazy how they're able to to have that pocket and to work the contract out like they did. It was crazy just seeing the $700 million, but then seeing how they did it I think it just took it probably like 3 steps further. But it's going to be intriguing to see Shohei on the Dodgers. Before we wrap things up, again, I appreciate you coming on the show. It's been really fun. So career goals. All right. We've obviously talked about what you've done already and, maybe what you're looking forward to. But like, if you had to pick, the mecca of all things that you're like, if I'm able to do this, maybe not a specific network, we don't have to talk about any of that, but like, if I'm calling this or if I'm doing this, like, what was like your biggest dream to be able to like, work for, call for, whatever? Just what is it though?
Yeah, I mean, the last 3 years, 2.5 years, I've had a lot of opportunity to explore a lot of different areas, which is really fun because I think everything I've tried, I've really enjoyed. And then that comes to the problem. It's like, okay, what do you want to do now? And I'm like, oh, I don't know yet. I like everything in
Yep.
sports, as long as I'm talking sports. But I've really grown a interest in basketball. For me personally, soccer and basketball, I kind of knew were the sports that I'd be most comfortable with when I started play by play, and those are the only 2 sports that I've done so far for play by play. But I've really enjoyed them, and I've loved soccer as much. Like I grew up playing it; that was my sport. But basketball, I've really come to a love for it. There's only 5 players on the court, so it makes it a lot easier to call those games.
That's true.
Despite how fast paced it is, it's just so much fun to be in those stadiums and arenas. For me, going to the Kohl Center, we've had a few big games here already with Marquette and Tennessee earlier this year, and the atmosphere. I just feel like you get that in football, you get that in other sports, but in basketball, because you're so closed in, it's electric. It is so much fun to be in. And I think I would love to work in basketball in some capacity, whether it's college or pro, calling those games, being a part of those games in some capacity, and just working in that industry. But I'm so open to doing anything, whether it's, working as a studio anchor, working as a sideline reporter, working as a play-by-play person, working in front of the camera, behind the scenes, like just to be involved in the industry of sports and how much fun it is. Chase, you mentioned it earlier in the podcast that you don't work a day in your life when you work sports. Like you're doing your dream even as a college student. So just continuing to do that is really going to be my main goal.
Right on. Right on. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's crazy though. I mean, they're talking about not working a day in your life and just being able to, do all these opportunities and stuff. But in basketball though, I mean, it's like you said, 5 players on the court, 10 players on the court total, but like, the fast paced, ability, if you're able to just keep up with it's really fun to call, going up and down and everything like that. But, I mean, it's crazy to think though that, both of us are the same age, 5 semesters through, 3 of them left. The real world's coming, real opportunities are coming. It's awesome to think about. It's been really fun. It's been really fun having you on the show. I appreciate it. Go check her out. She's been doing some, really good things. And, I definitely should do this again another time.
Yeah. Thank you, Chase, for having me on. I mean, you're killing it with this podcast and what you're doing down in Cincinnati. And wish you guys the best of luck. Sorry we stole Luke Fickell from you last year.
It's,
I had to say it.
It's all good. And I'll keep, I'll keep being on some. I'm a Buckeye fan, so hey, another connection with Luke Fickell. So there you go. But again, appreciate you having me on, and we will see you guys next time.